In fact, it's going to divert necessary resources away from the importing and the trafficking of adults to youth. And these are the concerns when Canadians talk about concerns around drug and drug-related crime, which I suggest are more prohibition-related crimes. The importing into Canada and the trafficking of adults to youth is absolutely where we should be directing our police resources, or absolutely what we should be concerned about. But unfortunately, that's simply not what's going to be targeted. We know that from our current arrest rates in Canada, where 50,000 cannabis users are charged with personal possession every year. We know that from our police arrest statistics. And so if we actually want to do that, then we need to change this bill considerably so that it does focus on importing and trafficking of adults to kids. Otherwise, it will be drawing away resources that are desperately needed, as you've heard from our police services right now, who are all short of staff and short of resources. We need to be able to direct those resources to the areas that matter to Canadians, and those are the areas that matter.
Thank you. Thank you.
Merci, Senator Joya. Senator Leung.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Belle-Isle, Madam, you said that doctors are reluctant to sign medical use application forms. Why?
That's a very good question. I can only speak on what the people living with HIV have told me. I have not spoken directly to the physicians, except for the few that happen to be on the Stakeholder Advisory Committee with me. From what the people tell me, they are reluctant because they are often concerned about liability. They do not feel they have enough information on cannabis as a quote-unquote drug, as it is not an approved drug. It is an herbal medication for which they don't have much information. They don't feel they are well informed to provide advice on dosing, on how to use cannabis. So basically it becomes a discussion between patient and doctor based on the patient's experience using cannabis for medical purposes, and a decision between patient and doctor. And as Mr. Lucas pointed out, and this is, people told me this while I was conducting the focus groups, the physicians seem to be more likely to sign or provide a letter of diagnosis, is what it comes down to state a symptom or a reason why a person might get some benefit from the use of cannabis, as opposed to prescribing cannabis, because you can only prescribe an approved drug, and it is not at the moment. So these are kind of liability issues, plus the Canadian Medical Protection Association, which is kind of the body that insures them, had taken quite a strong stand against physicians participating in the program, and have even designed a kind of a waiver that alleviates the responsibility of the physician. So to kind of protect the physicians from liability charges, so the patient can take that to their physician and ask the physician to kind of be free of all responsibility, and the patient takes on the responsibility for using cannabis as a medical treatment.
And yet, yes, Mr. Lucas, you say that there are, what, 400, did you say? 400 physicians who are actively sending people to you. So
that's 350.
Yeah, so they're not sending them to you with a prescription. They're sending them to you with a recommendation that this may work.
That's absolutely right, Senator Milne. I think we have to go back to the dawn of this program. When Health Canada established this program, the Canadian Medical Association, provincial medical organizations like the British Columbia College of Physicians, as well as the Canadian Medical Protection Agency, which ensures 95% of doctors in Canada, all made strong statements against being the so-called gatekeepers of this program. And in fact, they continue to, in policy statements, to state that they do not want to be the gatekeepers of this program. They don't see that role as appropriate for them. And yet, unfortunately, there's no other obvious group to take responsibility for that approach. We know that cannabis is a medicine. The medical community has to take some responsibility for it, but because it hasn't gone through the checks and balances of other traditional pharmaceuticals, there's some great concern around that. Physicians, my gastroenterologist filled out my form. I'm a legal user, as did my GP. He has been very clear. He says, don't tell anyone I filled out your form. I'm not filling out any other forms. I'm not comfortable with the process. And I think that the 33-page application, that the yearly renewal that has to go on after that, creates a level of discomfort amongst physicians, because this is dissimilar to every other drug prescription process that they go through. And so doctors have never been polled specifically about why they won't fill out those forms, but it's clear that so many of them simply won't.
I should, by the way, add that the waiver form that Ms. Belle-Isle indicated that was put out by the CMPA for the benefit of our Quebec physicians is ineffective in Quebec because you can't pre-release medical liability under the Quebec Code.
So it's just a piece of paper. It's
Basically, that's under the civil code.
That's correct. It's ineffective in the province of Quebec.
Thank you.
Then my next question, Madam Chair, is to Mr. Leung and Monsieur Lucas. Do your producers, what sort of oversight do you have over your producers to make sure that they are just supplying you and not recreational users?
When a cultivator signs a contract with us, they agree to a possible site inspection. They also submit hydro bills so that we can compare the amount of power used with the yield that they supply to us and make sure there's not large discrepancies.
So you have a certain excuse me, I'm fighting a cold, a certain backlog of experience that tells you if they use so many kilowatts
That's right.
per month, they're going to have so many plants.
That's right.
And to add to that, the site inspection is a very good way to assure some of that. As Mr. Leung suggested as well, our organization does tests for heavy metals, biological impurities, and cannabinoids as well in order to ensure some purity and quality control of the product. But most importantly, all of these producers could absolutely be supplying the black market and making a much greater profit if they chose to. In other words, they choose to grow cannabis specifically for distribution to critically and chronically ill Canadians. They do so because it gives them a sense of worth, obviously. It gives them a sense of social capital and of community building and a sense of pride in the work that they do. And so they do so because they choose to. And if they ever chose to go onto the black market, they certainly could make more money there.
What is the difference in price?
The difference in price right now in BC, AAA organic, as we call the highest grade of organic cannabis, probably goes for about $2,800 to $3,000 a pound right now in Victoria and Vancouver. At the Compassion Society, we'll pay between $2,000 and $2,400 a pound for it. And so we're talking about a 30% reduction in many cases, and that's 30%, that's a pure profit margin.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Milne. So, returning to Senator Leung, who will be followed by Senator Campbell.
Well, Senator Milne, thank you very much. Senator Milne, just introducing the question of production, and I think we need to understand what is the link between your institutions and the bill, and the production and the new sentences for production is the key. So I want to and many times you've alluded to the fact that medical grade marijuana is, and you mentioned, Mr. Leung, 70% organic. So let's go back to Mr. Barron. Mr. Barron was producing for the VIX, Victoria.
That's correct.
Mr. Lucas institution, all the substance.
That's
so
correct.
he was producing one strain. How many strain? Was it organic? Was it also available for the recreational business?
It was the plan for the VIX and what was called the
I'm
VIX.
going back to Mr. Barron because it's a public case.
It's a reported decision.
It's reported. Everybody can read on that.
Yes.
Of course, I don't want to get into any other of your producers who don't want to have their name cited publicly.
And I will provide the committee with the reasons for sentence, because those are not publicly reported, but I do have them, and I will provide that to the committee.
You have to do that fast.
Only in electronic format. But
I'm sure we could plug you in
I'm
somewhere.
happy to mail them to Ms. Richardson, email them to Ms. Richardson. and I have my BlackBerry, so I could probably do it as we sit here. Mr. Barron was producing only for the Vancouver Island Compassion Society.